Welcome to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kinney.
And we're here to talk about what goes on in the village, the township, and the various government entities that surround you out there and sometimes bushwhack you with new regulations and laws.
And these are the people, that you elected, and whether you live in the village of Oxford, township of Oxford, village of Leonard, or Addison Township, and even if you don't attend the meetings, they still make decisions that directly affect you. That's why we're here.
We are. And we're here to make fun of the political transactions sometimes because there's humor.
Dark humor. Dark humor.
No. Really dark, yeah. But we're going to send some of that humor to you. And by the way, now it's time for a disclaimer.
Oh, what's that?
Oh,
50-50?
No, most of what we say is correct. But if you cut really hard.
Perhaps not true.
Yeah, but pretty true. Okay, right?
Reasonably true.
Reasonably true. Okay, let's talk about the first meeting then, shall we?
Go for it.
All right, we'll go for it. Oxford Township Planning Commission meeting. Now, it appears that Todd Bell had before him a preliminary for a site plan for something like 360 new construction buildings.
Yikes, that's big.
Oh, it is. And you're never going to guess where this is at.
My backyard. No.
No, could be, but I don't think Brandon will allow it.
Okay.
Either
But
that
so
or
where is it?
Gerbils. It's actually next to Tim Hortons in that area. There's a 56.4 acre piece of property in there.
Tim Hortons?
Yes, you know, the donut place there and other
Okay.
foods.
Yeah.
In that area, there's 56.4 acres, and there's another 13.61 acres available.
Is this
too.
the area that's kind of beneath the school, beneath the hill on the
Yeah.
school?
Actually,
it's like several different pads that are there, actually.
Right. If you look up the hill, you can see the school, and that's roughly about 70 feet, by the way, which is pointed out.
Great sledding hill.
Yeah. Well, it's equal to.
Have you ever tried it?
I think it's equal to like about a 7-story building. You know. So when they do the what do they call it? Property
Drainage study.
drainage study. Yeah, and that was part of it too. And they discussed
really?
it. Yes. Right now, Burton Katzman Development, they own it. And so they laid out a plan, a preliminary, of how they would go through different phases of this. And the first phase would be the installation and install of not condominiums, but apartments.
Okay.
And so there's going to be a series of apartments. It looks
These
like
would be
about
situated along that boulevard.
Between 24 and Marketplace.
Right.
Yep, in that area.
Okay.
And so, anyway, questions came up. Well, what about traffic volume? You know, going out to 24. Well, they did talk to the MDOT, and they have come up with a plan as to how to provide easy access and exit. You know,
Right.
from that.
There is a light there right now.
There is a light there. Yep. But they're saying it may have to be widened a little bit. You know, for that. And the ingress may be a little bit longer than what they have now. Those are situations or issues that will be covered, you know, down the line once they get going.
How does this property fit with the, I don't even know if it's still on the board or not, but the proposed Chinese resident piece of property?
Yeah. Well, this company, the development company, is also negotiating with Wei Ming.
Ah.
And they're kind of, you know, foggy about, you know, what Wei Ming is really interested in doing at this point.
Is this Wei Ming or the other company?
Could be the other company.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, they're not at all sure what's going to happen, but they say there's 13.61 acres available beyond this that could still be developed yet. But what's going to happen to it, they really don't know yet.
Oh.
They did say, well, what about access to Oxford Road, which runs alongside the school and interconnects with Ray Road? Is there going to be an exit and an entrance to the
To what?
to your development? You know,
From Oxford
from
Road?
Oxford Road.
Or you mean from Ray Road?
No, from Oxford Road, because it's on that side. It's on the southeast side, you know, where the school's at. So they're looking for an entrance or an exit, and a couple of the commissioners says, well, you know, that is a great idea, we think. You know, that could happen, but Mike Spiz, who sits on this board also and is a county commissioner, he says, oh, wait a minute, hold it right now. He says, I can't imagine, he says, traffic coming out of 300 houses, you know, diverting to Oxford Road, because it just couldn't handle it.
Yeah,
Besides,
I'm just trying to picture where that would hit Oxford Road.
you'd have to go up the hill somewheres.
Well, yeah, but I mean, or have access. I still can't picture it. No,
Well, right now, what they have within the
outside of the sled.
right outside the sled, down the hill. Yeah, well, they're not going to be sledding anymore because there's going to be houses down there, and they're going to be plateaued, I understand, at different levels.
Tiered?
Condos eventually will be tiered.
Okay.
They call them plateaued.
Or rice patties?
Yeah, well, that'll be at the bottom. No.
Okay.
So, anyway, there is a turnabout on the end of the condominium complex. So the plan was not to take it up to Oxford Road. The point came out that, well, right now there's people that take shortcuts, you know, from the school and so forth. And if you provide another shortcut, you're feeding all that traffic through this condominium complex, you know, this development. Not a good idea, they felt.
What, they just put a little no-through traffic up there, and that'll take care of it, right? No.
Probably. Probably will not. Okay. It has never worked before. Probably won't work this time. So anyway, so those were considerations, and actually Jack Curtis says, well, there's another issue, and the issue is sewage. Do we have the capacity, you know, to handle the sewage that we're talking about?
Oh, they got gravity on their side.
Well, and that's actually what was brought up by Todd Bell.
Oh,
He said, you know, that they probably would use a gravity system. And the representative, who is Chuck DiMaccio, he's from Burton Katzman Development. He said that they would, by all means, use a gravity system where possible, that they don't want to use pumps, you know, they have to pump it up.
Do existing sewer lines, are they capable of handling that kind of a load, so to speak?
Up to a certain degree.
Oh,
Now, Market Street has a sewage system link there, which will handle a certain capacity, and they said that the beginning apartment levels would be fine, you know, that it could handle it. And also, Todd Bell said, well, you know that the village has excessive capacity to be able to handle this, and if we could tie into that, that would be a consideration down the line, because they got more than the capacity than what they would need.
once again, the village and the township are cooperating, or
Yeah.
should.
There's a lot to be said for pool out there. So, or they could link it to the Oxford system, or Oxford Road system, you know, the sewage system, but they'd probably have to pump it up to a level, so that's a consideration also.
Called an engineered system.
Yep. Now you're talking about water system too, because you got to supply water, you know, to 300 and what do we say, 360 homes, or you know, in that area once it's developed.
Well, seeing where that water tank is up by the school, that's a heck of a head of water they'd have going down that hill.
It would be. Just plug a hole in it, run a line down there, and you're all set. That's the way it might work. I don't know. I don't think it will.
They could have a fountain just like Bellagio.
You're watching OCTV.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Eckel.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we're talking about the Oxford Township Planning Commission meeting that they had, and Todd Bell is the chairperson in charge of that, and the new development that will be coming in down the line. I can see the train a-coming.
300 plus apartments?
Yeah,
or condos.
Yeah, right. There's apartments and condos involved in this process. So we were talking about the various utilities required, you know, like the sewage system and the water system and that kind of thing, what's required. And of course, there is gas in that area now, so it's just a matter of connecting to that line, I think, for the gas situation. They did talk about parking, and one of the people, Tom Berger, said, now wait a minute. He said, we're going to have all these houses along there. He says, and according to the design, I don't see enough room for street parking. There's 2 spots to park, you know, in the garage area of each home, but no real street parking.
Do the apartments have garages also?
They do. Each apartment will have its own garage.
But there's no outside parking?
He said very limited outside parking, so he was concerned with that. And he said, if you don't believe that, he says, go through Willow subdivision, Willow Lake subdivision. He says, you'll see people park long, and he says, there are days when it's difficult to get around. There's
yeah.
other subdivisions the same way, you know.
Oh, when you have a, graduation open house, where do they go?
Yeah. So anyway, he says, well, if I go into this condominium project, this development, and he says, and I'm a visitor, he says, where do I park my car? Or do I park somewhere and take a bus in?
Get the shuttle.
And
That's what NOTA's there for.
so, Todd Bell says, well, those are issues that need to be resolved. And he says, we'll cover those down the pike. He said, this is just a preliminary
Right.
to the site plan. He says,
So,
get some of these issues
like,
out of the
like
way.
a lot of things, that 360 or 320 or 350, whatever it was there,
Mm-hmm.
could get reduced to increase the amount of parking available.
Very
So-
well could do that. Yep. Okay, let me see. Water line, we talked about storm retention. There happens to be a pond already next to the golf course, or on the golf course. That they can use for retention, for the drainage water. So that has already been looked at, and it does have the capacity of handling this particular development. So
Okay.
that's a good thing. Okay. You said Mike Spiz said he's still concerned about the traffic. If they were to take that road and run through, to Oxford Road. He said that's a serious consideration. He said
Are you,
that road,
are you saying Oxford Road or the other one that's there,
No,
Ray Road?
Not Ray Road, Oxford
It
Road.
would seem like Ray Road would be more logical.
No, because it cut across the golf course.
No.
Yeah, it would.
Oh, it's on that side.
Yes.
Oh,
The light comes on.
the
I
light
see it.
comes on. So it's not those pads that's reserved
No.
next to Myers.
No.
It's on the other side of,
Yes.
we'll say the south side
Yes.
of Tim Hortons.
That's what I tried to tell you.
Well, you said next to it.
Okay, close enough. Anyway, that Mike says that the residents, if that road were there, then they'd have to pick up the lion's share of the expense to maintain that road, over the years through taxes and so forth. He's not at all sure people will be willing to do that. So, plus the congestion it would cause. So anyway, that's the subject that Todd Bell says, well, here's the deal. He said, if we like what we see so far, with some exceptions that we need to make, he said, as we go through this process, he said, then we should, let them know that we agree with it.
Now, this property is wholly within the township
Township,
borders.
It is.
Doesn't go over into the village at all.
that is correct.
Okay.
But if the village decides to provide sewage capability, for this area, of course, they would charge
Right.
the township for that capacity.
I'm sure they've done that in other situations.
They have, but this is the latest to come along. By the way, there's other developments that they're talking about that may be coming down the line. And Commissioner Berger, he said, I don't want to have anything
Talking housing or commercial?
commercial, other business capabilities that might come along that corridor. He doesn't want to restrict the ability to have the sewage for it nor the water capability. And then by imposing certain requirements that, let's say this complex doesn't have to hook up originally or initially to the sewage system and providing the requirements for that, other than
If
at
they
a
don't
later
hook up,
date
what
as
do they do?
in phase. Well, they do in phases. For example, Market Street could handle a certain capacity.
Okay.
Beyond that, they can't handle it. So what they're saying, the developers, is that, well, we'll connect to it later. And Mr. Berger says, or Commissioner Berger says, I don't like the idea. He says, I think that if we're going to do this, we do it the right way, that they do it initially or some other method provided. Jack Curtis says, well, he said, I think that they ought to put money in escrow for this, that they ought to establish money as they go along. And let's say we figure in 5 years they have to make the connect. Now they have the money to do this. Well, Todd Bell said, well, we can go with bonding. He said, which is a protection. He said they provide $1 million bond, and if sometime during that period they require it, then they just cash the bond and complete the project. And if for some reason they go out of business and they disappear and they leave this development as is, we have the bond protection. We'll go ahead with it, and complete it. So that made a lot of sense too. In the long run, they all took a motion that they would go ahead and approve the contingency plan to approve this and go ahead with, as I say, contingency.
Who would issue the bond?
The bond would be issued by, it would have to be provided by the developer to the township.
And who backs it up?
Well, they would have to back it up with
Even if they went
assets.
bankrupt?
Yeah, even under bankruptcy. Well, it would be a secured, bond. So they would have to have it backed with something in terms
Okay.
of funding.
All right.
So anyway, Todd Bell, he feels that's the right way to go. Jack said it's only one method in which this could be done. You could go with, a percentage every year that they could put into a fund in terms of escrow. That's another option that could be done that made sense. So anyway, in the long run, they approved, the initial plans for this project. And there's a ways to go yet, and but it looks like it's going to probably go.
Does this firm have a target date that they'd like to start building?
No.
Oh.
Yes. They do, but it depends on how
Just
things
putting a
move along.
parameter on it.
Yeah, they can't really put a date on it because, as you know, the wheels of government sometimes grind a little slow out there.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Slow but true.
Slow but true. Let's talk about next, the Oxford Area Communications Commission, something you know something about.
That's our parent body.
Yeah, and the chairperson for that is Ed Hunwick.
Right.
And on that board is Shar Southerby from Leonard. There's Sue Bassardit from the village, and Lori Fisher from Addison Township.
Right.
And
She's
then-
our treasurer.
Yep. And then Buck Kreiderman, who is a commissioner with the Oxford Township. So all
Right.
those people sit on that board. First thing they did is they brought up the minutes. And Sue Bassardit says, hold it, wait a minute.
Yeah, she took issue with it.
Yeah, what did she do? Do you remember?
There was a motion, some talk that was going on between the commission and the lawyer, Mr. Davis. Unfortunately, he was out in the audience and not mic'd very well. So some items that were said were not taken into the minutes, and Sue had recorded those and was going to get with the secretary to have those added.
She was concerned on the issue of the township wanting to have the studio provide equipment and so forth for the township hall, if I recall, for the meeting room. And so she wanted to make sure that this was definitely written properly in terms of the minutes.
Right.
So down the line, there wouldn't be any
Well-
question about what the commission was thinking.
True. Yet to be resolved.
Yet to be resolved. Yep. I don't, and it was pointed out, I think, by Ed Hunwick. He said, I don't think that they've even applied, for such a thing. So since it's not been requested, that we do this, it's maybe not an issue we really should be concerned with.
Well, it's not a question of us providing equipment. It's the township, I believe, is working through a contractor to provide the necessary equipment at the location.
Yep. And to what degree that is, we don't know.
Right.
And we'll talk about that when we come back right after this.
Right.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
We're talking about the meeting that occurred at the Area Communications Commission meeting. Aha, right?
Yes,
Which you were there.
cable communication.
I wasn't there though. But
You
were
weren't?
there. No, you were there.
You were doing a game or something,
I was
weren't
doing, yeah, production kind of thing. And Bill Service Manager was supposed to join us, and
you? But he stuck to his guns and stayed to the end of the
he
meeting.
stayed to the end. And then
What a guy.
Yeah, then they unnailed him from the wall and he came in. Okay. So anyway, we were talking about the minutes and how it was adjusted, proportionally, properly, I guess is the word.
Right. So they're being rewritten and
Yep. And then the question came up is, hey, you guys got a new computer. Did we authorize that? Remember that?
oh, that one.
And somebody said, yes, I think it was you.
Yes.
We got an iMac.
An iMac 27.
Yeah. Well, how did you get it without our approval? Well, it was in the budget.
Well, you sort of maybe did. The commission had allocated, what, 60 grand?
Yes.
And another 30, I believe, to upgrade our equipment here. And due to your diligent bargaining power,
Tightwad
tightwad
approach.
that you are, we had money left over, and at the same time, we developed a need for another edit station.
Yes,
And magically, you had enough money to buy it.
we did. But that was unforeseen, that we would have to have another editing station. Although we kind of wished that we had it, but they wouldn't give us the money in the initial budget. And of course, I had the budget so tight, at that time. We're really elated in the fact, hey, we have money for this other editor that we have, that can operate the machine. Doesn't have to take a number.
But I think the commission was satisfied with the explanation.
Yeah, I think so too. Although there was some extra money in there that they wouldn't let you have.
It was a nice try.
You
We
guys,
tried to get a little extra money that we had left over from this project.
you guys gave up way too
Transferred from the
soon.
2014 to the 2015 budget. But the attitude was, if you need it, we can do it in 2015. You don't have to make a transfer,
Or never.
or never.
Okay, I know how that works. Anyway, but anyway, if you need the money, you need to go forward in next year and say, hey,
Right.
we need some more. And they'll say, why? And there you go again.
There you go.
But anyway,
Like any other thing that requires a business case.
it does. Okay, so we do have an extra iMac. Let me see. They did a 3-year expenses report. I'm sorry, a year's expense report for 2014, 2015. And you explained how the accounting method worked. There's a close off in 2014, picked up in
Right,
2015, right?
Normally, we take all the bills that accumulate between meetings and say, well, this is the amount that has to be approved. But in this particular case, part of it was in 2014 budget year and the other part was in 2015 budget year. So I felt that required 2 separate approvals just to be clean.
One other thing that came up that was a pretty good issue was in unfinished business was the interlocal agreements. Oxford Township did not sign their interlocal agreement with the station because they received what they considered a dirty copy, a copy
Well.
that had smudged, lettering and that kind of thing involved. And they wanted a clear copy, along with an addendum or a change that was made by the attorney was
Right.
omitted, I guess, from their
And I think,
particular copy.
the attorney sent that out last week. So they're all in receipt of that revised interlocal agreement now, and that process can go forward.
Yeah, I think under the circumstances, the township, reserved the right to say, whoa, wait a minute, let's see what
Yeah,
we're
that's
signing
true.
here.
That's true.
So it made sense. Now everything's on the up and up. They can see what they're getting into. Maybe. Okay. Let's see. Contracts. Okay, they're all set with the contracts. Some confusion about if anything happens to the station, how is it liquidated out? Jack Curtis felt that with the township that there should be a percentage amount. It actually came down to the point that if that should happen, the bill should be paid, and then after that, whatever's left over should proportionally sent to each of the various
Mr. Davis felt that no fixed percentages should be pre-assigned and that the situation should be evaluated at the time of dissolution.
Right. Let's see. That's pretty much it that I can think of. Is there anything you can think of that came up in the
No,
Communications Commission? Okay.
no, not really.
Let's hit this real quick. The Addison Township special meeting they had. Hey, they're building a building out there.
Well, they're adding to the building.
Yeah. Well, actually, they're almost rebuilding it. And one of the things that came up was at $156.75 per square foot, are they going to be locked into that? The answer is yes. They're going to be locked into it.
Are you referring to the projected cost overrun?
Yes. Originally, it was like $2 million some dollars. They were $800,000 over budget. Now they're back into alignment in this special meeting. They suggested, the contracting company, that instead of 10,100 square feet or 10,200 square feet, which is the second plan, that they go to 10,980 square feet. And they laid out the project, and it would cost them roughly another 100,000, I think, for the additional footage.
Over the
their budget.
800,000 overrun?
Well, they had 1,700,000 to work with.
Uh,
So it looks like it'll go to maybe 1,008,
okay.
so in that neighborhood.
What got cut from the overrun?
Well, they took out a lot of windows, that they had inside the building. They moved one of the walls. They reduced the size of the area for the sheriff's department because they didn't really require that much space.
That should give them a good attitude.
Yeah. Part of that room now becomes a mechanical room. So they were able to shift some equipment
Okay.
to a new location. So a lot of neat things that they did here. They came right down to the wire and they said, well, how many square feet are we going to approve here? Because this needs to be done. They need to know in order to move forward how many square feet you're talking. Is it 11,000 square feet? Is it 10,000 square feet? What is it? So they beat this thing to death pretty much. Meeting went for quite a while. They talked about materials that are going to be used internally, carpets, those kind of things.
But no shovel has hit the
Tile.
dirt yet, has it?
No shovel has hit the dirt.
Okay.
They talked about entrance, that they didn't like the entrance the way it is now, and that needs to be re-established in terms of the way it's designed and laid out to give more visibility, to the building. And they said the one thing that came up is that a section of this roof is going to be flat roof instead of a pitched roof. And Bruce Pearson
Can
said,
you say leak?
Bruce Pearson says, well, we have a flat roof now, and it's leaking all around me, my office. He said, I'm not prone to go with a flat roof.
How about an A-frame?
Well, yeah. Well, here's the deal. The developer said, well, the new flat roofs are a lot more efficient. They use a membrane sealer for it, which they do. I'm familiar with them.
Is it flat, or is there an angle to it?
It'll have a slight grade to it.
Okay.
But even with that, my experience has been a flat roof. I would fight it right tooth and nail, you folks out there. I'd definitely go with a pitch if you can do it.
Might be okay in the rain, but you get a really good snowfall.
Right, and a membrane roof actually is only good for about 20, 25 years maximum, probably. So with that,
That'll be a new board by then.
it would be, could be. I would think that if they go with a pitch roof with some angle to it, that'll solve the issues of leaking out there for some time. And you know what? They have metal roofs now, too.
Yeah, they do.
And they'll last 50, 75 years. So, I mean,
Do they
there's
still
other
make
options.
as much noise as they used to in a
No,
hailstorm?
they're insulated. They're insulated.
They're insulated,
Yeah, they
okay.
are. So they don't do that anymore. So anyway,
And snow slides off them pretty nice, too.
they do, yeah. Well, one of the concerns was where we're going to put the air conditioning plant, for this building and so forth. And if we have flat roof, we can install it there. I think they better find a better place for it, would be my opinion. I think Bruce Pearson is feeling something here. I think he's feeling a message that, hey, this doesn't seem right. And you know what? If it doesn't seem right, it probably isn't right.
And if it's on the roof, you can get a lot of noise transmission, too.
I think Bruce will be revisiting this issue.
I see.
I would be pretty sure. And so that's pretty much in what went on, at that Addison Township meeting. And there's going to be more. They got another special meeting coming up soon. And when that happens, you folks
Followed
are
by an
allowed to
extra
go out
special
there.
meeting.
Extra. But the folks out there in Addison Township, you're allowed to visit and get involved in these
Do
special
they have a
meetings.
diagram up on like a display as to what it looks like at the township?
They do. And I think
So people can come and look at it?
Yeah, they can come and look at. Well, here's the thing. Not until recently. They
Oh.
did approve, actually, what they're going to do now in terms of square feet. And that may change a little bit yet. They haven't really,
And another
Decided everything.
another building that's getting a little bit more ripe is the addition to the Oxford Township offices. I was over there the other day, and they're putting up drywall. They're getting the dais all laid out, and I'm not sure exactly when the actual transfer of operation will go from the Vets Hall, where they're having all their meetings now, to this new facility. But we'll keep you informed.
well, I heard the other day that, they're going to have some delay in transferring the meetings over there.
Okay.
So, okay, what do we got
Anyhow,
coming up?
we've had a lot of cancellations, so there's not that many meeting. On 2/10 at 6:30, the Village of Oxford Council will be meeting. On 2/11 at 7 o'clock, the Oxford Township Board of Trustees. At 2:16, on 2/16 at 6 o'clock, the Village of Oxford Downtown Development Authority. And on 2/18 at 7 o'clock, the Addison Township Fire Board, and that's all I got.
Well, that'll be interesting. You folks that want to attend, just check the Township Hall or the Village Hall, and they're posted there too. I'm
Yeah.
Elgin Nichols. This is Minute by Minute.
And I'm Dave Kenny, and show up at these meetings.